Hey everybody, welcome to the inauguration inaugural episode of Let's Play Demon Souls here at Dexbuild, or should we say Let's Platinum Demon Souls here at Dexbuild. Uh, I'm Matt. This is Andy. Andy's never played Demon Souls, but he has decided for his first go, he just wants to play it right. Right? If you're gonna go big,
That's
go
right.
big. Is that what they say?
Something like that.
Go big, or go big.
Yeah. Go big
Um,
or go to the Nexus.
so yeah, go big or go to the Nexus. Full disclosure, we did try this once. The quality wasn't where we wanted it to be. So Andy has seen like 20 minutes of this game. Doesn't really matter. But we are gonna still redo the full thing. I think we still redo the tutorial area, right? If anything,
Yeah.
you can get that asylum demon or whatever his name actually is in this game.
Yeah.
It's revenge time.
I'll remember that I've got magic.
Exactly. We did spare you the character creator. This is our final result. Pink-haired Galat on his way to Bonnaroo 2025. Um, he's a big Dead Mouse fan, or whoever like a DJ people like these days are. I don't know. We're 50 years old.
He's he's beautiful is what he is.
He is beautiful. I really like his coat, but um,
I'm not
so
gonna
yeah,
lie,
let's
I
go ahead and
like
launch
his
this bad boy.
crown.
There will be a little cutscene, right? Or it's gonna, yeah. I guess we can kind of talk over this a little bit, but
Yeah.
you're not familiar with the lore whatsoever. I played this game twice. Once the original, and I played it again when the remake came out. But I am reading up on it from a book. I'll give it a shout out to everyone in case they aren't aware of it. But there's a company called Tune and Fairweather that publishes a lot of really cool Souls books and content. Everything from like the Abyssal Archives is like a 2 volume Dark Souls lore deep dive, and then the Demonic Archives is the one that we have for this. That's a deep dive on like the mythology of Demon Souls. So I'm hoping to read that as we go, as well as we both have looked at kind of trophies and ensuring we have sort of like a chronological checklist of things we want to make sure we do to do it as efficiently as possible. It sounds like we're going to essentially have to do one playthrough and then one speedy playthrough that may or may not involve us doing some kind of like save scumming to get it done without having to do a third playthrough.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think it's
that's
important that we're gonna play the game. We're not gonna cheat the game. I just where we can by way of just being aware, I
yep,
want to keep it moving as best we can so that we are able to ultimately get to other games, not just play this one
right,
forever.
exactly. I think just so everyone kind of has we can level set some expectations, but I think our goal will be to probably have we stream on Twitch, just so if you're watching us on YouTube, so you're aware we're on Twitch as just at Dexbuild over there. And if you're watching us on Twitch, we're on YouTube as Dexbuild Games. Um, but we plan to stream this twice a week, Mondays and Fridays at 10 p.m. Ish. There's been technical limitations that has caused some delays there, but actually we ended up almost just on time tonight with our delays. Um, and then that means for YouTube, probably you're going to get 3 or 4 videos a week if we can keep that pace, which that helps too, right? Because you're talking like, somewhere between 1.5 to 3-ish hours of probably gameplay a week of a game that isn't uh, too crazy long. So I imagine we can get through it within a couple months.
This sounds good. And then obviously any break that anyone needs, you've got all kinds of different games coming out.
We do, and I'm going to be playing games solo right now. I'm playing a game called Nine Souls on the channel. We should say a little bit about what we like if you're not familiar with us. We
Right,
do
like
have a Game of the Year episode. We recapped our 2024 games. You can always check that out on our channel. But I'll kind of let you talk about what you like. But I'd say, generally speaking, for us, our biggest portion of our Venn diagram of interest definitely lies in kind of Souls likes and Metroidvania games. I would say are the two things we enjoy them probably most consistently, and as a result, is probably what you'll see the most of as far as like from a content perspective on this channel.
yeah, if I'm going back looking at games I've actually finished lately, I'd say most of them are Souls games, almost specifically. And then
Mm-hmm.
I'll play little indie games in between, kind of just like as the reset for my mind. Resident Evil, I like to play those around Halloween. I don't
Mm-hmm.
otherwise like being scared. I think I've just told you the other day. I think I've done 7, 8, 2, and 4.
Yep.
Um, Mamadora that popped up in our game of the year stuff. But outside of that, like any game that I play, like aside from uh, Astrobot, like I don't necessarily know that I've finished. I've definitely not finished much of anything. I don't know that I've started too much. Any open
Yeah.
world game I'll start because I want to play it like everybody else, and then I fall off because I don't actually like open world games.
Yep. Yeah, we talked about that quite a bit in our game of the year episode, but both of us have a tendency to fall off open world games. Certainly you more than myself. I think we decided actually there that you might have outside Breath of the Wild. That might be your only full completion where you haven't fallen off a game. I have faith that you'll finish Elden Ring.
To be clear, though, that game stretched over multiple years.
Yeah.
I,
Oh,
I
I understand
I
that.
don't know
Yeah.
if we touched on that the last time we brought it up, but it was every bit of 2 years.
Yeah. And again, it should be made clear this is not for lack of Andy's enjoyment. It's just, uh, I think it's fair to characterize that you have a sentiment toward completionism, and it can be hard to override that in your brain. I think for you in an open world game, so then you're in this purgatory between get every item and then that feeling like overwhelming to the point where it feels like a chore or like a cumbersome amount of content that you need to deal with. And I feel like that's probably where the struggle lies for you, if that's a fair characterization.
Yeah, and for some reason, I'm really weird about how long I'll sit and play a game at once. Like Resident Evil, I would do no more than a chapter in a setting. Probably more likely, I would do a chapter over like 2 settings. I get to a point, especially with that kind of game, where I feel like I've kind of reached as far as I'm gonna emotionally follow it. Resident Evil, it's like, all right, I'm just a little too frightened for too long. I need to reset.
I want to quickly comment on that hurdle. I think it's funny that they give you a prompt to hurdle over a wall. And I think, like, so I want to flag something on the screen for everybody really quickly. Up top, it's very obvious. Andy has put in a very nice trophy counter for us to keep track of where we stand within our 37 trophies. And then he also has, you'll notice on his personal camera, our little hoodie skelly. We'll give him a name probably eventually. But that's our death counter. So that's the number of times Andy has died in this playthrough. Uh, and then what I was going to suggest is we should add a counter for the number of times that you need to hurdle in this game, which, if I remember correctly, is 2. But they still give you an instruction on that in the tutorial.
It's not going to stop me from trying. Haven't
Oh, I
haven't
don't
been
doubt
playing
it.
Elden Ring, well, and Stellar Blade, where you jump all over the place.
Yeah.
Um, I imagine this game, just because of what I've been playing more recently, is going to feel frustrating
Hmm.
multiple times, unfairly to it because of it came out first. But
Sure.
I guess that's kind of
Yeah.
just the name of the game whenever you're playing something 30 years later, whatever this
Well,
actually
and I
is.
think it's not 30, but that'd be amazing.
Like
I don't want to tell
13?
you a game's are 30 years old because it hurts. Like I'm saying, we're starting to get to the point where like some of
Oh,
our
I
favorites
know.
are 30 years
I
old.
I
Like
played
GoldenEye,
them. Yeah,
Ocarina.
I played them recently to get the 30th anniversary trophies on the PS5, and
Yeah.
it's awful.
Yeah.
They
It's just
weren't then,
wild to know
but
that we're as old as we are.
yeah.
I actually just tonight my son is currently like really starting to get into dinosaurs, and so I was trying to explain to him, listen, kid, I had the best dinosaur toy you could imagine. I had this. I don't know if you're gonna know what I'm talking about here, but I had this probably like 2.5 foot long Jurassic Park T Rex, and he could eat things, and then he had like a slit in his belly, so you could pull them back out, so you could have him like eat people and other dinosaurs. And I was like, Jack, you got to check this toy out. And we Google it. And this is what I saw when I looked it up. I'm going to read it here. But I Googled it to show him. And it's called the very first word in the eBay post. First of all, this thing's worth 150 bucks. So I immediately texted my mom. I'm like, did you get rid of this thing? Which she did.
Well, and surely
Um,
that's in the wrapper, not all dirty.
it's not, man. It's not. I don't know if you can see it up here. We're going to blur it out. It's on the ground. But it's called quote, vintage Lost World Jurassic Park 1997 T-Rex pod complete. 1997 vintage. That's where we're at. I think
Lost
25
World
years makes it.
also, you said. So that is official like Jurassic Park.
Yeah, it's for
Yeah.
the. It was like made for the second movie, which is a fine movie. You know who the villain of Lost World is? Do you remember that movie at all?
I didn't really like Jurassic Park back in the day. I don't know why. I
The
always
first one,
heard that
even.
like, yeah,
Wow.
I probably still don't like it as nearly as much as anybody else, but at least it's better now than it was. But yeah, they weren't really for me. And I never watched the 2, 3, whatever gets us to current kind of, but I've seen
They
most
get
of the
pretty
current
bad
ones.
after Lost World, so you're okay.
Yeah, and I've heard that. So whenever I was bored going back for stuff, I certainly wasn't like really tempted to catch up at that point. It was just enough
Well,
to
two
get me to
thoughts.
watch the new ones, which they suck
Yeah,
also, but they're fun.
the first new one's okay, like Jurassic World, but then the sequels to it are bad. But uh, Jurassic Park 1 holds up, which is stunning, right? Like a lot of special effects and stuff like that. And it was made, I think, in like 1993. Honestly, if you go back and watch it, it's pretty amazing how good it still looks. Then you realize it was made by Steven Spielberg. You know what I mean? Like it had a lot going for it. That movie holds up today. But if you aren't into dinosaurs, you aren't into dinosaurs. But I'm honestly really surprised by that.
Well, it's got nothing to do with dinosaurs. I just like I do like dinosaurs. I just didn't really like that. I do think I had a Jurassic Park video game though, like maybe on Sega or something. Maybe not, but I think I remember that.
I don't even know if I know. Oh, I know that. I mean, I know they've made games, but I don't know if I've ever played any. The one I'm kind of interested in, there's one called Evolution, and it's like a management game. You manage like Jurassic Park, kind of like a roller coaster tycoon deal. So like you put the animals in their cages and try to set it up as like a tourist park. And I've heard those games are pretty fun, but and I think I got them. Epic has those free games like every week,
Mm-hmm.
so I think I've snagged it at least there, but I've yet to try it. Might be worth it now. But to finish my little bit of trivia, the main bad guy in Lost World is Vince Vaughn. It's like very odd to see him
Really?
in like kind of a serious role. Yeah, and he's done them. I know, like he was Norman Bates in the Psycho remake, and he's been in True Detective and stuff since. But it's still
Well,
hard to not like hear him talk and think of comedy.
yeah. How? What season was his on True Blood? True Blood on True Detective.
Two.
2? Oh, I
He was
think
the
I
second.
watched that one. I don't remember him being in
He
it
was,
though.
it was him, and I think he was two. It was 2 or 3.
Is 2 the one where the villain was like walking around in his underwear at one point? Was that him in his underwear?
It was 1 or 2. No, I don't know if he was a villain in True Blood or True Detective. How you did it to me. I don't even remember. I never saw season 2, but I think Mahershala Ali was season 3. So I do think Vince Vaughn was season 2, along with whoever it is that plays Riggins in Friday Night Lights.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you need to get out of that corner. Well, you lasted less long this time. Death counter, baby, tick.
I debated whether or not that was the time to put the shield up, dual wield, whatever, and just go for it. But whatever.
I mean, honestly, I know we talked about this, but first time on the stream that survived. I'm shocked that it's not a trophy to beat that guy first try, or
Yeah.
like without dying. Like that feels like it should be a trophy, but like we talked about, that would be so annoying if you failed. And because of the way Dark Souls works, like there's no redos, so you
Mm-hmm.
would have, in order to get that trophy, play like say you died, an entire New Game Plus run to have a second chance at it. But maybe the flip side to think about that is, I assume when you fight, you already have to do New Game Plus to get the trophy, right? So I imagine there's no way you're losing to him in New Game Plus, right? Like you're gonna be fully decked out with all your stuff. I imagine that will be a breeze, but so maybe that would be why it'd be fine.
I mean, I would like to think that. I know they also scale on New Game Plus typically, don't they?
Yeah, but my understanding is New Game Plus, like the first New Game Plus, is actually more like tour de force. Like you're powered way more than they are, and that's the easiest one. And then they get harder the further in you go. Like once you're at like 4, 5, 6, 7. Also,
Gotcha.
though, maybe you don't go do that training section in New Game Plus. In fact, I'd guess that you don't.
That would make sense. All right, so I don't know that I actually listened to her talk the first time or this
It's
time,
probably worth it now. Just
but
listen to all these NPCs actually what they have to say.
I will, yeah. But what she just said, I mean, I assume that she's basically my guy's a little oblivious to what's going on, and she's just kind of giving him the heads up, like, "Hey, you're not dead.
Yeah.
You're here. You."
You're in the Nexus. You'll come back here all the time. So I think just so folks know, I believe our plan is going to be to go to pure white tendency first, right? So we'll be killing ourselves in the Nexus
Hmm.
to stay out of our human form, stay in soul form. That doesn't count against you. Go wreck the bosses, and then we'll take the world to pure black tendency once we're ready for that.
Okay.
Let's talk to old Stocky Tom.
I didn't know what hit me. When I came to, I found myself here in this Nexus. My wife and daughter fell victim to the demons. But I would be worthless in battle.
This guy kind of looks like one that would be surprisingly tall the first time you see him not sitting down.
Yeah,
Like,
he
to the
does have
point
that
you're like,
vibe.
whoa. They
Yeah, he
seem like
stands
they're
up, he's like
standing up for a
6'10".
long time. All
He's
right.
got a good stat.
Let me get my stuff.
I think I'm going to try to remember to ask you this, but maybe when we're like a few sort of areas into this game, my question will be, and I guess it's assume it's safe to say that your answer will be yes right now, but whether or not you would entrust the Bloodborne franchise to Blue Point after seeing what they did with this one. But I assume your answer is, I have Bloodborne as it stands. It can't hurt to give them the chance to give us more Bloodborne, whether it's a remake or a remaster or a sequel.
I'd take all of it. I'd
Yeah, like,
absolutely give them a chance, for sure.
what's your stance on that? Like, you know, a lot of people are like, "Oh, the remake or the sequel like ruined the original." I hate that feeling. I'm like, no, nothing changed about it. If you like the first of something, it will always be there. If a sequel's bad, just don't watch it. Like, I would watch The Matrix and just never watch the next 4 movies or whatever it is. You know?
Yeah, and I'm easy in that regard because like if we're watching a series, we've had several examples where it might drop off and you might finish it, but you're probably going to be telling me how much you've stopped liking it. And to me, I don't really care. I just want to keep following those characters around. So yeah, that wouldn't bother me.
I agree with that, but I also think like with those things, I still feel the same way. Where like it wouldn't ruin how I feel about, you know, like if I was gonna rewatch Weeds or Entourage or Californication, shows that I felt like fell off in their later seasons, I would just rewatch up to where, like up through season 5 of Entourage or up through season 2 or 3 of Californication. Um, Definitely 3 of Weeds. After season 3 of Weeds, I don't care to see any of it. But
Yeah, that was one that I kept on going with just because.
yeah, skip the entire final season of Dexter. Although, like I told you, New Blood was good.
So you told me that that was important. Should I just go ahead and guess, is she actually his daughter? You don't have to answer that, but like,
You said that last time.
I did not.
I don't remember who he's talking about there. I wasn't even reading what he said.
Where he just said his daughter would have been just about the maiden's age.
Oh, I don't know. I actually don't know that bit. Let's actually just let me look. I don't know if it's a secret or not.
Well, it's a secret to somebody who's not played the game.
I'm gonna tell you. I think though, I was gonna Google it, but I think if I remember right, you get resolution on his story relatively quickly. So I'd say let's just dig around here.
If you haven't heard, there's another blacksmith at the entrance to Stone Fang Mine. He's an eccentric old man, and knows his trade well. He's the only sane one left in a town of soul-starved men. If you do meet him, no, forget it. That stubborn old ne'er-do-well will just chase you off. But aren't enough smithing tools in this temple to handle all the work.
I like that we aren't talking like so we can hear these people, but in actuality, I think that the volume will be very quiet. People are gonna be like, "What is happening?"
Oh, for anyone that's watching, yeah.
At all in this
Yeah.
forsaken place.
I've always thought it was interesting that the blacksmiths in these games have all these weapons behind them, and I'm not able to buy them. Like, I'm sure I could get a
Yeah.
halberd or something, but they always have something where it's like, I sure would like to buy that from you.
It's similarly to how, like an enemy might have a cool halberd or something, but they don't actually necessarily drop it.
Mm-hmm. King Alant. I imagine his name will come up again. Maybe
Yep, and
also
it did
the
come up in
meaning.
the intro video a little bit as well.
Hmm.
But we'll get more into him when it matters.
You'll have to have your book on hand.
Oh, good point. I'll have to have that next time.
Yeah, where I see you inside of your camera. Everybody else would see you inside of your little box there. You hang up an illustration. Like this guy
Yeah.
right here.
Here we have King Alant.
Whoa, whoa. What, a step
Whoa,
on his finger?
what? Did you piss him off? Did you
Cool
land
it,
on him?
man.
Oh, baby. Will he let you talk to him? Oh, thank God.
Dude, better watch it.
You came for demon souls, or to save this land and be remembered as a hero.
This guy's also working on his white world tendencies.
Try one of the archstones. Now go. That is why.
What if we immediately went to like black tendency because you pissed off the crestfallen knight or whatever his name is?
You came for demon souls, or to save this land and be remembered as a hero. Bah, it's all the same.
I don't know if I'm fuzzy or not, but like what separates us in this land, like this to me kind of feels like
We're welcoming.
Harry Potter world. Not the Harry Potter world. Within the world of Harry Potter, you've got the Muggles who just
Like, what are we doing? Ads already?
they just
I didn't know we
live
had ads for Harry Potter World.
they just live their lives and they're
Uh-huh.
oblivious. And then you've got wizards and then I guess Muggles that are aware that kind of live in a different world. So
Okay.
he said like you came here for demon souls or was it to save whatever. If I had not, would I just be out there oblivious or would I be one of those essentially a bad guy, whatever you would want to call those baddies?
Demons.
Demons?
They're demons.
Would I just be a demon or would I just be like in another multiverse just like reading books and
I
stuff?
believe the repercussions of death in this game are mostly being demons or dying, but I think you'll start to realize I don't want to go into it too much because a lot of the NPC lore will get to this. But which, by the way, we're probably ready to enter Boletaria. Remember, there's nothing up here.
Yeah.
And you're already dead, so you don't need to kill yourself. You're going for that shiny.
No, I just thought I would take a peek to see if the maiden presented herself this time. She hid from me before.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about. She might want you to die like one time, and then she presents you with what death means if you come back. You know, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Give me the chance to level up.
So I would say like a kind of a big theme you'll notice in this game that we'll get into is like what is it like what is your mind and its relationship to the soul and what do those things mean and how you perceive the world and things like that. So as far as like a multiverse, that's kind of what that stuff is about, but most of it is like often in their games, like losing sanity or losing touch with your mind and how that affects your perspective on reality. And what does that mean to like become a demon, right? But
So, like, where did I come from in the intro when I decided to cross the mist or whatever? Was I just essentially on the other side where it's all smoky and stuff?
yeah, I don't know. It's similar to how like I thought about that in Elden Ring. Like you're in the lands between, but like where did you come from?
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and
they
that's where
rarely
I'm
explain
wondering.
the origin of the NPC.
Like, if I came from somewhere that isn't here, then did I even know about all of this, or am I just some guy doing battle somewhere who heard about this big thing going on and I wanted my glory?
Yeah. The Slayer of Demons. You journey to the land of Boletaria in the search of demon souls, it says. So you're there to look for them because you're the Slayer of Demons. You're guided there by the Monumental, which I don't want to talk anything more about that because you'll find out soon. So we're going to leave it there. But eventually you'll meet a character that's important to explaining what sort of pulled you in. But as far as your motivation, I did not know that you were technically hunting demon souls all at this point.
It is hard to get that backstab.
Yeah, I'm saying like that. In fact, I feel like it's so infrequent that I don't ever really remember you executing one. So that gate, for example, if I'm remembering correctly, is only open in one of the extreme world tendencies. I'm not going to talk about which or why, but
That gate right there?
As I think about that, the one that you just looked down the steps at, yeah, that leads
Oh,
into that
okay.
area.
Okay, so among other things, it opens up parts of the map, I guess, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Yep.
Cool.
Again, I may be rusty, but I'm fairly certain that's the case. As you know, there's sort of two things in balance here, which one of which is the world tendencies, but the other is the one you're more familiar with, which is sort of like changes due to quest lines, you know, that affect things in the game. So I'm sometimes a little hazy on like which affects which in this game, because obviously this is the only game that has something like world tendency that affects that. See? Telling you, man.
What's that?
No backstab.
I'm going to keep trying. I know I've done it at least once or twice. I think maybe I'm just not going far enough, or I've gone too far.
That's real sensitive if so, but
Not going to lie, whenever you said C right there, I don't know how long it lasted, but I don't know what I'd zoned out to, but I'd zoned out to something.
yeah. I mean, I also, if you had asked me to bet money, I would say that there are backstabs. Like I believe you, but it sure seems much more finicky than in other games. Because you remember in other games, like you can be a little off and you'll almost like snap to it to execute it. You know?
Yeah. Well, and I almost feel like it's in the tutorial of those other games. Now, obviously, I had my chance to look and see if it was in the tutorial here.
I think you were pretty thorough. They were too busy making sure you got a tutorial on how to hurdle for one of the 2 times in the whole game. They were like, we're out of developer notes. We have one left and 2 things to talk about. We can either tell them about backstabbing or we can tell them how to jump over walls, which he's going to need to do 1 time out in the real levels.
It sets you up for some confusion.
Yeah, and somebody's like, Tim, we could put stairs in that part. No. Put a tutorial right here. Leave the wall in the main game.
Like I said, those stairs would be broken. We're not fixing them now.
No. I designed my last set of steps for this goddamn game. Where should we put them? Put them all in the first level.
Yeah.
We're going up and down this castle all over the place.
Whoop.
Get a backstab. This is it. Oh my god, you stabbed him right in the ribs, dude. That wasn't close.
Getting out of that room.
Now this is all I want is backstab. So we need a backstab counter. See, look at his crown. This is what I was trying to tell you about. Look at his cool little hat. He's dead again.
He did have a little something.
Little flourish on the old noggin.
Is a flourish another name for a hat?
No, but a flourish is a word for a flourish, giving something like a little embellishment.
Oh.
Get behind this guy. Go the other way. I want you to backstab this. Are you
I tried.
kidding? You stabbed him in the back, but you did not backstab him.
Right.
I don't think it's a thing, man. They got rid of it.
All right, over under how many episodes before we get one?
It's happening in this one. I can feel it.
It's certainly my best attempt, unless they just have a super small
Like this
hitbox,
guy,
and that's
let's
why.
get it right here. Like, let's do whatever it takes. This might be the whole rest of the episode. You're definitely missing a lot also. This is
I
it.
feel like I'm
I mean,
erring on the too far side, so I'm gonna start
go
doing it.
closer to his shield this time. Yeah. Okay, try again. Nope. Now go closer to the middle. This is insane. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Is it possible that this weapon isn't conducive to a backstab? Will you tell me what it is? Let me Google
I
it.
mean, it's some kind
What's
of
the
a
weapon?
rapier. Just a
What's it
rapier.
called though? I'll just rapier. Can you backstab? Keep going. I'll just Google with a rapier in Demon Souls. Yes. In fact, they're considered one of the best weapons for backstabbing.
I'm just not good at it.
Now, I'm going to say something controversial here. And by that, I mean it's not really that controversial because I bet nobody has strong opinions about this except me. As we'll put it on record, we're going to piss off some fanboys out there because I know some people stan it. But Dark Souls 2 is our least favorite Souls game. Fair to say, right?
Yeah, it's the worst. Now, in fairness, I don't know what people did before the little hack about upping the one stat to like 30, and then you have some real speed about you again.
Yeah.
But without that, it's a chore.
Also, Scholar of the First Sin, I think, made some really bad choices. That game is a great example of misunderstanding what makes Souls games good. Like, ganking people and adding more enemies for difficulty is not what makes these games fun.
Yeah.
Nor is it fun to have yourself get staggered so badly that you have to do a 5-second animation. Nice hit. I like to imagine he heard the wind go by him and you yelled unguard and he just watched you do it.
Yeah,
and
like
he just was like, really?
from his perspective, it's one of those movies where he just like slowly does one of those as the blade goes
Yeah,
by.
exactly. Or you
Then we go back in our world, it's like shit, fuck.
Yeah. But for all the stuff that Dark Souls 2 gets, the thing I think it does better than all the Souls games is I think it's cool how they gave all the weapons, or at least classes of weapons, different backstab animations, and a lot of them are pretty cool. Like I remember with the axe, you like kind of swing and do a full twirl around to like hit him in the back again after you've stabbed him once. Love that stuff. And the great swords have sort of
I
like a
do
big
remember.
home run baseball swing.
Yeah, I do remember all that for sure. Oh, didn't need to do that.
And I would still like to go on record. I don't think you have this sentiment as much as I do, but I do think a bad Dark Souls game, and it's not even bad, but the worst Dark Souls game is still better than most
Yeah,
games.
I mean, it's
like
still
I'd rather
Dark
play
Souls.
Dark Souls 2 than most games. Yeah.
It's that same thing. Like you're still in the world, so happy to be in it.
Yeah, and like it still does better than what most people who've tried to imitate it have done, you know.
Yeah.
Um
Whenever you get shield broken, that was another
Yeah.
thing where that like slow motion
yeah.
animation where like that was another thing. I don't know if that was something that got fixed by upping that stat or not, but my gosh, that was brutal. I think the whole first week that I played that game, that's all I did was complain about that.
What is that? It's like adaptability or something. It also I think
Yeah.
gives you better iframes.
Love me some iframes.
I think
Clown.
the thing about 2 also is that as everyone's well aware at this point, but it's the only true Souls game that Miyazaki didn't direct. He was making Bloodborne at that point. So I am really interested to see now the format of the game already has like its hindrances for you, right? But like I'm interested to see what happens with Night Rain, right? Because it's going to be the second time Miyazaki hasn't directed a Souls game. And so like can it redeem itself a little bit and in terms of actually being fun, but it's also I think going to get a little bit of leeway because it's like kind of being rightfully so, but marketed as like a different thing. It is in the Souls universe, but it's actually not a Souls-like, right? Like it's a different kind of game. It's like a permanent progression roguelike.
Yeah, I don't actually know if I knew that Miyazaki wasn't doing it.
No, so one of the new directors came to him and said, I've got this idea of what we can do with this IP. And Miyazaki was like, I trust you. Go. You know, he has approval. He's still, you know, the director or whatever. I don't remember what his technical title is, but of From Software. But he is letting this new director like fully deal with the, directing of the game. I said director of From Software, but what's his actual title? Miyazaki.
Oh, was he?
He was promoted to be like run the company.
I don't guess I've ever really considered the game itself versus all of FromSoft.
Yes. No, he is now. Let me look it up. 2012, Sony approached From Software concerning cooperative development on a new game. Miyazaki asked about developing a game for 8th generation consoles, and the concept of Bloodborne was born. After release, he announced his intentions to personally stop development on the Dark Souls series. His next 2 projects were a VR game and Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. He did ultimately release Elden Ring with George R.R. Martin, and has been cited amongst one of the greatest video games of all time.
Out of curiosity,
That
how
he really just doesn't miss.
I mean, he's got quite the resume for sure. How would you compare, just favorably one over the other, Elden Ring versus Game of Thrones? And obviously they're different, but just...
I just want to finish the thought real quick. He is president of From Software. I just want to make sure I got the title right. How would I characterize? What do you mean? Like anything specifically, or just general?
I'm only tying them together because I guess George R.R. Martin, but because he is tied together, what is the which one is better at what they do?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Well, is Elden Ring a better video game than Game of Thrones is a better show? Is that the question, or you mean like a more specific? Are they better at what they do than that? Because I can answer the first one. I've go for days about just that. But.
Maybe you can take your pick whether or not it's video game versus show or storytelling, because they obviously both do a lot of both.
What's interesting about them is I think they both took. I'm gonna tell you what they do similarly, in my opinion, and then which one I think is better from there.
Okay.
What I think they do similarly that's interesting is that neither of them invented something fully new, right? Like there have been medieval epics that have been movies or shows, mostly movies, and there have been Souls games and or open world games, right? Like all that stuff existed. So like elements of what they aren't brand new. Game of Thrones, though, I think made a smart decision that a lot of shows are starting to keep in mind. Like television at a point was a I don't want to say like taboo or sort of like a negative thing, but if you remember, like once upon a time, like good actors, like movie actors did not do television, right? Like it was considered, don't die. You did this I think you died exactly here last time.
I didn't expect like 5 straight soul arrows to miss like that.
I missed. I know, dude. That's kind of been the name of your game in this particular run through the castle.
God, brush my teeth with the flame sword right there.
Well, we still don't have a backstab.
This guy just can't decide if he wants to fight me or not.
What's going to happen is you're going to lock onto him at an inopportune time and walk off an edge. That's what's going to happen.
Probably.
What Game of Thrones did, though, that I think what I was trying to get at is like good actors didn't do TV until like House of Cards changed the game, man. And that was not as long ago as you might feel like. Like 2012, I think, is when that, or 2013, something like that, is when that show came out. Do you not remember the feeling? I mean, I follow like media and stuff probably a little more closely than you, but like of Kevin Spacey being in a TV show was like a big deal. You're like, oh, Kevin Spacey's in a show and there's gonna be a streaming show and I watch it all at once. Like that was all new. And what I'm getting at with this is like, for that reason, big properties had always been movies up until that point. And so I think what's cool is Game of Thrones made a smart decision at a time around then also. And HBO has always had a higher quality than a lot of other stuff. So it was a little different on HBO than streaming services. But to say, hey, there's this book series, don't do movies. We're not going to do 5 movies. We're going to do shows and give it room to breathe. And I think that's what it did really well. And now look, even Harry Potter is going to circle back because that if anybody had complaints about the movies, that was it, right? Like, hey, it was too confusing or short or truncated because you tried to cram an 800-page book into a 2.5-hour movie. That doesn't work. Now, what if every book is going to be a full season? They're going to be able to really lean into characters, settings, stuff like that people like. So I think Game of Thrones did that well. Elden Ring, I think we talk about not liking open world games for one reason or another, or falling off them, not liking them. But I think what it did that I loved is like, for so long, open world games had become like the softification of open world games is kind of what you always hear people say, where like you open a map and there's like 5 billion markers of things you can do, exclamation points and resources and whatever, and you're like, oh my god, there's so much stuff. And Elden Ring did that really cool, like hand-drawn looking map. You could literally look on the map and see in the drawing that something interesting was there, but that was like your only indication that something might be that way until you discovered it. And then it would put a limited amount, but markers on the map, let you know where NPCs were, or caves or dungeons.
Mm-hmm.
So it created this sense of like, I'm just gonna go this way. I'm gonna go explore. Or on the map is like, it looks like there's a little something in the water there. Maybe I'll go see what that is. And it typically led you to something. And then in the same way they did in their tight, more linear games. I mean, I wouldn't say all the Souls games are linear, but to a degree. Still, somehow in a giant open space, if you're like, I'm gonna go behind that rock, loop around, and go into this hole because it feels like something should be there. And more often than not, it was. And I just think that's really good game design. So they took two genres that are pretty different or had been pretty different, married them together, and created one of the best games of all time. Do I think Game of Thrones is one of the best shows of all time? It was for 5 seasons, but I think they didn't stick the landing. And for one reason or another, I talked about making a show so you could let it breathe. And then for some reason they sped up the last 2 seasons and stopped doing that, and so I think that's when it started to suffer. It didn't help them that the books weren't done, right? So they were flying blind a little bit. That was definitely like their
Are
hands
they
tied
done
behind their back.
yet?
No, he hasn't even released. There hasn't been a new book since the show ended, and that's been what, over 5 years ago.
Yeah.
That's a whole thing. Like, that's a whole other thing. That's why people kind of even joke to him helping with Elden Ring. Like, what are you doing? You're doing anything but writing this book, Um, he's written other content, right? Like the stuff, a song of Ice and Fire is what the main book's called. What is it a Song of Ice and Fire? I can't remember what the name of the book is that it was the basis of um House of the Dragon, but like that content has been really good, kind of back to form. But that's my extremely long-winded answer to your question, to say that I definitely think that Elden Ring did what it did better. I mean, I think Elden Ring is my favorite game of all time, and Game of Thrones is not my favorite show of all time. So that's how I would play that out.
Long story short.
But once upon a time, like honestly, around season 5, I might have said that to you that I thought Game of Thrones was one of my favorite shows of all time.
Mm-hmm. I didn't pick up the other set yet because we're at that point. It was just the Age Spice, and then
You want me to read that one? I can read all of them.
this is what we picked up. Yeah, go ahead.
So the robe, yeah. A robe made of layers of ragged fabric, covered in tears, open seams, and writhing grubs. No person in their right mind would don these garments of their own accord. And then what did the shield say? Do you want me to read that one?
I can go back for that.
Um,
There's a little fun fact about that. The one thing that I think I do know is like this is one of like 1 or 2 sets that are sex dependent.
gender specific or whatever, yeah.
I think this shield I just picked up from the bonus version of the game that I bought.
Oh, okay. Well, let's still read it. I wonder what that meant for it in the original game, though, or is this like maybe something they had designed and cut for whatever reason? But anyway, Hoplite Shield, a medium-sized metal shield specifically designed for Boletarian legions. The reinforced center of the shield is ideal against direct attacks. The legion's protective formation was renowned across the kingdom. One thing you might want to look at is what is the physical damage protection on each of these? Like, do you have 100% on your little buckler or not?
I doubt it.
Good. So it might be worth a switch at some point if you can hold it.
I guess physical is this one's 88 to the other 60, or is it 100 to the other's 90? Or I guess I could just look at it here.
Go back to it and hit the there's like the info
Physical.
button.
It's the sword.
Yeah.
So that's 100. That one's 90. I mean, that's not bad. I should
No,
be
I
able
mean,
to
it is a
wear it.
lot heavier. It's a lot heavier, but
Oh, it takes me to red.
yeah, you
Okay,
don't want
yeah.
that.
What's
What?
the
Oh,
threshold
your
here?
weight.
I guess it's like some
I believe this one's a
30.
hard cutoff. Like, there's not a mid roll. I think you are fat rolling or you're not in this game. I don't remember what the percentage is.
Okay.
Well, to your point, you just opened up the shortcut, so that does seem like a logical place to stop the episode. And then next time we'll go up the tower and we'll finish up Boletaria in episode 2. But that will conclude episode 1 of Let's Platinum Demon Souls. I think that's what we're gonna call it, right? That feels too fun.
Sure.
Let's Platinum. That's not it.
We'll workshop it.
Yeah, we'll workshop it. We'll have a name by the time you see the episode. Probably, I think it will probably be Let's Platinum Demon Souls. But we appreciate having you guys here. We hope you enjoyed watching. If you did, please hit the like button. It helps out a ton. If you're enjoying the playthrough, leave a comment. We want to hear from you. We want to let you know, did we miss something? Do you want us to wear something crazy? Give us input on our fashion souls, stuff like that. And again, also let us know what you're thinking of our other playthroughs or other games you'd like to see us play on the channel. We'd love to hear that from you in the comments as well. And while you're at it, if you want to see more of our content, like I said, I'm also playing Nine Souls, which is a Sekiro / Souls-like Metroidvania game, which is like the marriage of everything we like. Among a lot of other stuff, we checked out Hyper Light Breaker, the sequel to Hyper Light Drifter. We have our Game of the Year episode, all that kind of stuff. Like I said, we'll probably have, I'd say, at least 4 or so videos a week coming out. So if you want to see those, hit subscribe and turn on that bell if you want notifications when those come out. We'd love to have you around for those as well. So again, hope you enjoyed watching this one, and we'll see you again next time.